Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We got about 1 day, 18 hours and some change before Verdansk returns. We got a lot to go over in this patch notes for Warzone that came out yesterday. So if you like the video, subscribe. If not, whatever. But we're about to go over these patch notes. Stay tuned. Alright everybody, welcome back. So here is the weapon adjustments video I said I would make after I went over the patch notes for Warzone. So the AK-74 looks like it's getting a damage buff, range reduction, but a damage buff at all damage ranges. So that'll be nice. Same thing with the aims. Aims was pretty meta, so we'll see how that plays out. The AS Val is also getting a damage buff and range reduction at what's considered medium, max, and minimum range. I really was enjoying using the AS Val. So the CHF barrel is getting a recoil penalty reduced. Lord Tosor, yeah, I don't really care about the multipliers. But, that's going to be nice. They are buffing the Cypher. Just crazy. Just crazy. But they're lowering the multipliers from the torso and legs. So we'll see how that pans out as well. Because that gun is definitely running amok right now in Warzone. The GPR 91 is getting pretty big buff. Not as much on the distance there. That's pretty. Yeah, the range debuffs I think is really what they focused on in the Cypher. Krieg seems like it's getting a pretty big debuff too on the range there. Not so much for the GPR. GPR has been doing pretty good for me. Whenever I pick it up off the ground, Model L is gonna get a buff. Pretty big damage reduction there from 47 meters to 33. XM4 not big on the range reduction. Pretty decent jump there on the damage. I think the Goblin in general was getting rework. You can shoot it faster and stuff. It has its own. It has a rework going on. I don't remember where I read it, but I saw one. The C9, definitely the meta SMG right now. Little to no range debuff and a damage buff. That's going to be huge. The Jackal getting a buff to range and damage is huge. I don't like the compact. I have some friends that use it. It's also getting a range buff and a damage buff. KSV getting a little nerf on the range, but a damage buff. Looks like everything's getting damage buffs, and a lot of stuff's getting range nerfs. Little nerf there, not so much on the damage buff for the PP919, another gun I love to use. The PPSH, same thing, not much on the range. A decent little damage buff. The SOG getting a huge buff overall. The SOG just eats at close range, so that's going to be huge, I think, for the SOG. Might see some more SOGs. Tanto hits hard, shoots slow. Binary Triggers, I think, getting reworked too. So hopefully that pans out. Hopefully there's some more variety in what we're seeing. Definitely could be, especially with the SMGs buffs. I don't really use shotguns much. I don't see a lot of shotguns used. Looks like it's just mostly range buffs on the shotguns. LMGs, the Fang's getting a range and damage buff. I might put the Fang on. The GPMG is the one I pick up off the ground the most. Getting a little damage buff. Slight little nerf there to the range. Same thing with the PU. XMG getting a little stuff going on there. Marksman rifles, I don't find these on the ground at all. If you're going for 100%er challenges for Warzone, good luck. I rarely find an AEK, a DM10, a SWAT, any of this on the ground. But it looks like they're all getting some buffs. I rarely see anybody use them. Car 98, lower torso multipliers increase, leg multipliers increase, so we'll still see some Car 98. But I really think people are going to switch over to the HDR since it's going to be a one-shot headshot at any range. This is going to be the new starting pistol that you drop in with in Warzone. So it's going to damage reduction to 25, and it's going to pretty massive range buff there. And then another huge damage reduction. I guess that's since it's gonna be the new starting weapon use. So we'll see how that pans out. Great Kova getting a huge buff, full auto pistol. They're nerfing the GS45 down to pretty much even with the 9mm, which is pretty crazy. But again, that 9mm is replacing this as your starting pistol. The Strider is going to damage nerf. I mean, it is a 22 caliber, so it shouldn't do that much damage. It does do more damage than the 45 and the 9mm, which is pretty crazy, but whatever. Launchers, if you're going to be using these for helicopters, don't see a lot of launcher usage. The damage is increasing to 250 for the launchers and the range as well, so that'll be nice. Joker damage is still 300. Joker is huge. That's my favorite rocket launcher. The Pila, everything's getting buffs, it looks like. Definitely going to be to combat those vehicles that we're getting, and then the Siren is getting a buff. That is a good, I think that's a kind of slept on secondary if you want to run the wild card and have 8 attachments and not have to pick up 2 loadouts. This would be a good secondary. I think it's kind of slept on. Don't see it used a lot. Hopefully this brings it back into the rotation. But we'll see how that pans out. Looks like there's a lot of buffs going on with the damage for all these guns, which is going to be nice. And most of the nerfs are just to range, so nothing crazy here, it looks like. So definitely think that if the meta changes, it's not going to change much for Warzone. Hopefully this brings some more variety to what you see, because you see a lot of aims. Like I said, I like to run the Asval. You see a lot of Cypher. I also run a Krig, but I mean, I'll pick this up off the ground if it's there. Don't really use the Model L much. Definitely don't see anybody use the Goblin. Definitely see a lot of Jackal and C9 now as it is. Definitely going to see more Jackal, I think. Might see some more Compact. It's there. This is my favorite gun. This is my go-to. Between this and the C9. PPSH still hits. So I'm thinking we'll get some more variety in SMGs for sure. Doubt anybody uses shotguns. LMGs good for ground loot pickups, just to team wipe. Hopefully these are added to ground loot, because you don't see a lot of these at all. People might not even pick them off the ground loot anyways. It's gonna be interesting to have the 9mm pistol. But what do you guys think? You think this is gonna change the meta? You think we're gonna get some more variety in the gameplay with the launcher for Dansk? Let me know down below. Thanks.